Encounter 1. Gray's River, where Bigfoot walks. A literary trek through myth, wilderness, and the mind. Originally reported by Ed Hunt, Observer staff writer, featuring author Robert Michael Pyle. In the fog-veiled hills near Gray's River, naturalist and author Robert Michael Pyle embarks on a journey as enigmatic as the Pacific Northwest itself. Pyle's 1995 book, Where Bigfoot Walks, Crossing the Dark Divide, dives into a subject many approach with either rigid skepticism or wild-eyed belief: Bigfoot. But Pyle's focus isn't a straightforward yes or no hunt for the creature. Instead, he probes something deeper. Why we believe, how myth becomes memory, and what the existence, or the persistent belief in the existence, of Bigfoot tells us about the land and ourselves. This is such a powerful myth, Pyle reflects. It continues to enrich the way we look at the land. An ecologist by training, with a PhD from Yale, Pyle marries his scientific rigor with poetic prose. His approach is literary, not empirical, a blend of field notes, cultural anthropology, and psychological reflection. I wasn't trying to prove Bigfoot exists, he clarifies, but rather to understand why so many of us need it to. The seed of fascination was planted early. In the 1950s, his grandmother returned from a Himalayan trek with tales of the Yeti. By the time he reached the University of Washington in the 1960s, Pyle was already steeped in the lore of Bigfoot, having viewed the famed Patterson-Gimlin film and read accounts from early Sasquatch hunters. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1970, while camping on Mount St. Helens, Pyle heard strange, guttural howls echoing through the woods, sounds he, a trained biologist, could not identify. The area was already known for sightings, and this moment sparked a lifelong curiosity. 5 years later, Pyle met Peter Byrne, a hunter-turned-skeptical researcher leading the Bigfoot research project near Mont Hood. Pyle invited Byrne to speak at Yale, where even the academic elite found their assumptions rattled. Years passed. Pyle went on to publish several respected works on butterflies and conservation. But Bigfoot lingered. In 1989, he submitted a proposal to the Guggenheim Foundation and was awarded a grant to explore Bigfoot not as a zoological subject, but as a literary and cultural force. He returned to the woods, the North Cascades, the Olympic Peninsula, and the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, not to find Bigfoot, but to explore the landscape that birthed the myth. What he discovered was a trail of belief more real than footprints. Some of the most grounded people, rangers, hikers, loggers, recounted stories that shifted their worldviews in mere moments. Pyle recounts a friend who, in 10 seconds of silent eye contact with a figure in the brush, transformed from hardened skeptic to reluctant believer. Nature recycles everything, Pyle says when asked why no Bigfoot bones have been found. We don't find bear carcasses often either. Today, Bigfoot remains, to Pyle, an ecological mystery wrapped in human psychology, a phantom that mirrors our own yearning for the untamed. Encounter 2. Phantom of the Woods, Phantom of the Psyche. Originally reported by Mark McDermott. Featuring Peter Byrne and Kevin Jones. That we do not know. You is your perfection and our hope. The darkness keeps us near you. Wendell Berry, to the unseeable animal. In the mist-shrouded mountain ranges of the Pacific Northwest, legend and wilderness intertwine. Here, amid the firs and shadowed glens, walks either a giant bipedal ape or a figment so often imagined, so vividly described, that it has come to inhabit the minds and memories of thousands. But this is no idle campfire tale. The Bigfoot Research Project, led by the seasoned tracker Peter Byrne, is a scientific effort, or as close to one as the elusive subject allows, aimed at gathering credible evidence of this creature's existence. Funded in part by Boston's Academy for Applied Science, the project was launched in 1992 and based its headquarters near Mount Hood, Oregon. Byrne, a former big-game hunter from Nepal and India, once sought to kill Bigfoot. Now, his goals are more measured and humane. We're not trying to shoot it, Byrne explains. We're trying to prove it exists without harming it. Armed with infrared sensors, motion-activated cameras, seismic detectors, and even helicopters, the project is no longer the stuff of dusty trails and instinct. The team monitors reports via a toll-free hotline and maps potential geotime patterns of Bigfoot activity. Yet much of the work still involves waiting. Byrne chuckles when asked how the search is going. Mostly we sit around and drink coffee and wait for one to come through the door. The eyewitness, Kevin Jones of Salem, Oregon. Among the thousands who've called in their encounters is Kevin Jones, a 31-year-old aquarium cleaner and lifelong deer hunter. On a crisp autumn morning near Grants Pass, Kevin sat on a stump in a clear cut, letting the sun melt away the morning frost. The forest was quiet until it wasn't. Movement stirred the old growth at the forest's edge. Then out stepped a 7-foot-tall creature, covered in hair, with a smaller one, perhaps a juvenile, following behind. Kevin froze. Rifle in hand, he could only stare as the larger creature looked directly at him, aware but not alarmed. It was like, whoa, they really do exist. The adult seemed to beckon the younger forward, and both disappeared into the trees, not in haste but with purpose. The spell broke. Kevin told his friend, then his wife, but kept quiet publicly for almost a year. Eventually, he called the Bigfoot hotline just to talk. "I was raised not to believe in evolution," Kevin confessed. "But after that, I became a student of anthropology." He now ventures into the woods with a video camera, always hoping, always looking. The veteran tracker, Peter Byrne. Peter Byrne has never seen a Bigfoot himself, but he has no doubt it exists. His conviction stems from decades in the field, beginning in the Himalayas, where he first tracked the Yeti under sponsorship from Texas oil heir Tom Slick. When Slick expanded the search to the U.S., Byrne joined the Pacific Northwest Expedition, the first large-scale American hunt for Bigfoot. The region is massive, Byrne notes. From Northern California to Alaska, there's terrain where even aircraft vanish. Skeptics often ask, why haven't we found a body? Byrne's answer is simple. The forest swallows everything. The same fate that hides mountain lion remains or bear carcasses hides Bigfoot. Byrne's current project has logged over 1,000 sighting reports, which have been narrowed to under 100 credible cases through extensive interviews and psychological profiling. A mystery with depth. The enduring mystery of Bigfoot isn't just about fur or footprints. It's a question of belief, of how humans interpret the unknown. Whether it's a relic primate species, a spirit of the forest, or a shared hallucination, Bigfoot remains a compelling presence. Anthropologist Grover Krantz argued for the reality of the footprints, some displaying dermal ridges impossible to fake. Others, like Professor Darius Swindler, remain skeptical but intrigued. I'd love to see it. As an evolutionist, I'd love to study a 9-foot living primate. Peter Byrne holds on to hope for a peaceful encounter, one where science and legend finally meet. In his dreams, he watches the monitor flicker as a creature appears on screen. His team mobilizes helicopters, trackers, and dart guns to gather tissue without harm. "We're not chasing a myth," Byrne says. "We're listening to the forest, and one day, it may speak back." Encounter 3. The Churchyard Tracks of West Pike Run. Reported by multiple witnesses. Investigated by Stan Gordon. It was an ordinary snowy afternoon in February 1994, when Cornell Ellis Sr., the custodian of Mount Zion Baptist Church in West Pike Run, Pennsylvania, stepped outside to burn trash behind the church. What began as a mundane chore would soon become one of the most puzzling and talked about Bigfoot incidents in southwestern Pennsylvania. As he walked toward the garbage barrel with a bag of refuse in hand, Ellis noticed something odd in the white powder blanketing the church grounds, a series of gigantic footprints. At first, he thought a dog had been running in circles behind the building, an unusual sight, but not alarming. But then he saw the other set of tracks. "I walked closer and I realized they weren't dog prints at all," Ellis recounted. "These were huge and spaced about 6 feet apart. I couldn't believe what I was seeing." Each print measured over 31 inches in length and 17 inches wide, according to follow-up measurements. The stride was consistent, about 6 feet, as though the creature that made them walked with a deliberate, massive gait. More disturbingly, the tracks didn't lead to or from the church, but appeared to cross a path behind it, disappearing into the trees beyond. Ellis immediately called his girlfriend and brother. The trio followed the tracks into the woods for nearly 100 yards, where they discovered something even more curious. A second set of tracks, smaller and more delicate, following alongside the first. This led Ellis to believe he might have stumbled onto the trail of 2 creatures, possibly a larger adult and a juvenile. "We didn't want to go too far," Ellis admitted. "The prints were too fresh. We had this feeling like we weren't alone anymore." An eyewitness transformed. Before that day, Cornell Ellis had never taken the Bigfoot phenomenon seriously. He had seen a few documentaries on TV, laughed at tabloid headlines, and like most people, figured if such a creature existed, someone would have found bones or remains by now. But his perspective shifted in a moment. I started asking myself, why don't we find bare bones in the woods? We don't. Nature takes care of it. Maybe Bigfoot is no different. An investigator's perspective. Stan Gordon. The case soon drew the attention of Stan Gordon, a respected independent researcher who has studied UFO and Bigfoot sightings in Pennsylvania since the 1960s. He arrived at the church within days, documenting the tracks, taking plaster casts, and interviewing witnesses. Gordon, who founded both the Westmoreland County UFO Study Group in 1970 and later the Pennsylvania Association for the Study of the Unexplained, PASU, described the West Pike Run prints as some of the clearest and most compelling evidence he'd encountered. The snow allowed for perfect definition. Each toe was visible, along with heel impressions and even an arch, details difficult to fake. People usually try to hoax Bigfoot tracks with flatboards or molds, Gordon noted. But what I saw here, these weren't just imprints, they were anatomically correct. What struck Gordon most was the location and timing. Bigfoot sightings in Pennsylvania were more commonly reported between June and September, during warm, humid months. This sighting, however, occurred in midwinter, when movement through the woods would be more difficult for a large creature or easier to track. The broader pattern, a history of sightings. The West Pike Run case didn't occur in a vacuum. According to Gordon, sightings of large ape-like creatures in Washington, Fayette, and Westmoreland counties stretch back decades. In fact, reports of Bigfoot in western Pennsylvania date to at least the 1830s. And every year since 1972, someone has claimed to see or hear the creature. In one notable 1973 case, a girl in New Eagle told police she saw a tall, hairy being walking near her home. Another report from that same year described a creature with glowing red eyes, spotted digging in a coal area. In every report, similar elements are repeated. enormous footprints, a foul, sulfurous odor, eerie howling or screams, a sense of being watched. These cases are not limited to crackpots, Gordon emphasizes. I've interviewed farmers, police officers, nurses, people with nothing to gain from making something up. Could it be something more? Gordon acknowledges the limits of current science when trying to explain these sightings. While many believe Bigfoot is an undiscovered species of primate, some suggest a more unconventional explanation, that Bigfoot may be a spiritual or interdimensional entity, possibly tied to ancient Native American beliefs. In fact, several tribes refer to similar beings in their oral histories, not as myths, but as a real other tribe that dwells in the remote forests and keeps to itself. As for Ellis, the experience has changed how he sees the world. He continues to attend church, now with a sharper awareness of the woods just beyond the back fence. And though he hasn't seen the creature itself, he knows what he saw in the snow was real. It's not about belief anymore, Ellis says. It's about what I saw, and what I saw shouldn't exist.